Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week. And this is the show where I review all the comics I've read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between. And before I get started, at the end of the video, we talk about the viewer's pick of the week. So in the comments below, let me know your pick of the week for a chance to be featured. But let's get started. I had about 13 books this week, and number 13 actually helps us talk about our main topic this week, and that is The Amazing Spider-Man issue 6. Now, before I jump into the issue itself, I do want to talk about a news piece that came out this week about where the Amazing Spider-Man's going. I think in September they're teasing this new arc where we have two Spider-Men, and one is going to be telling the story of the normal Spider-Man friendly neighborhood stuff we've been seeing, and then the other half is this cosmic side of Spider-Man. This is a hard one for me because I think if Spider-Man had been great for months and months and months, or had proven it can do a whimsical story like this, I'd be excited. I'd be a little bit more open-minded. But because we've had a lot of these kind of bigger headlines that just kind of fall through, one of them, honestly, example being that the last one with Joe Kelly's run, which is the deaths of Spider-Man, and it was like 7 or 8 deaths of Spider-Man, that one kind of fell through for me. So obviously I will keep an open mind as the story starts. I'll never drop Spider-Man. I want Spider-Man to always be good. But this one does make me scratch my head a little bit. And it's funny because there's another Spider-Man related thing that made me scratch my head that actually turned out to be a really interesting story, which we'll talk about a little later in this episode. So I'm hoping for the best. I think it's a really weird side of Spider-Man. The thing I'm interested in is the idea of who is this other Spider-Man. I'm not a huge fan of Cosmic Marvel, so I don't know if I'm excited for that side, but hopefully it brings some life into the series. But I'm gonna say I'm scratching my head a little bit on this one. But let me know in the comments below, who do you think this other Spider-Man is? Do you think it's just Peter Parker, like split into two? What's going on here, and are you excited for it? Now let's jump into this week's issue, which was The Amazing Spider-Man issue 6. This is a weird issue because I'll say it's a setup issue because they're starting a new arc, but nothing really happens in it. John Romita Jr. is back on our art, which I don't love. He's not my favorite style for this book. And the things that I thought moved just didn't do it for me. It didn't hit the mark, and that's mostly the Shay and Black Cat stuff. I like the idea of instilling modern dating and talking about it being official or not official, but I want some emotion behind it. I want there to be some sort of character work, and here it just feels like it's just there to be there. And Shay as a character, for me personally, has just not been very likable for reasons of this. All we've been seeing is the side of, I don't like you, Peter, don't really even know why I hang out with you, but I guess I'll continue to hang out with you. It's like, if you don't like him, why are you even hanging around with him? And then, you know, I want to see where the Black Cat and Peter stuff goes, but there wasn't even that much meat there either. So I feel like there's interesting ideas that just do not land in this issue and mostly this whole run. So overall, giving this 2 stars, and that is number 13. Moving on to number 12, which is Detective Comics issue 1098. Another volume I kind of want to like better. I like Tom Taylor's writing. I really like the artist for this book as well. And I just haven't been loving this arc in particular. It hasn't really been much of a Batman arc. We have more of a spotlight of Penguin and Harvey Bullock that we get to see a little bit more of here. And it just doesn't interest me as much as just your plain old Batman story that has been missing because we've been getting more Batman Hush, which is a weird series because another thing that was announced recently is that there's going to be a Jason Todd spinoff, but Hush has felt so in its own vein and universe, so it's going to be weird to see a Jason Todd story that's in continuity spinning out of Hush, where Hush feels so out of continuity. So overall, but going to Detective, I'm going to give this one 2.5 stars. Not a bad issue. I want to see this arc through, but if the next arc doesn't pick up, I might be dropping Detective Comics. All right, moving on to number 11, which is Superman Unlimited issue 2. It's very much Dan Slott's style of storytelling where it's very hyperactive. It's a lot being thrown at you at once, and it's a little bit hard to comprehend everything that's going on. And for me, there is a ton of Superman titles out there. You can kind of pick and choose what lane you want to go in, and I'm enjoying the main series enough where I don't know if I'm getting enough from this series to be like, I'm going to continue reading this one. So I do think I'm going to drop this. It just hasn't really hooked me. So giving that one 2.5 stars, and that is number 11. Moving on to number 10, which is Exquisite Corpses issue 2. I tend not to be able to get into James Tynion books. I don't know why. I think it's more his style of storytelling is grander than life stories. And for me, I love a good character-driven story where we get to follow one person, get in their head and get to see their interpersonal relationships. This is a lot bigger than that. They really have a lot of pieces and pawns being moved where it's kind of hard for me to get into the world. But the thing I really liked about this issue was the art. I thought the art and just the world building was really interesting, but for my taste, it just didn't work, but that doesn't mean it's a bad book. So giving that one 3 stars, and that is number 10. Moving on to number 9, another one kind of goes back to, is it a bad book? No, but is it my type of storytelling? Also no, and that's Battlebeast issue 2. I love Invincible. It's one of my favorite comics. It was really one of my first indie comics I read. But the side of Invincible I like is the superhero human/alien, human/alien side, and not as much the cosmic storytelling. Here, this is your bare bones bounty hunter in space story. It is very much about the blood. It's about the action. It's not much of a story. It's just like, okay, do you like this style and this genre? You'll like this. It's more popcorn flick than anything. And if you like that style of storytelling, you're gonna love this. It does that to a T, but for me, I don't love this side of Invincible, so it's not as entertaining to me. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 9. Moving on to number 8, which is Krypto, the Last Dog of Krypton, issue 1. It's a fun book, but when you have a lot of books, honestly, there's been, I think every week I've had like 13 to 15 books. You gotta cut down a little bit with all the new series coming out as well. This one just didn't have that much besides here's the origins of Superman from Krypto's point of view. I think the most interesting aspect was Krypto meeting Lex in the end, but it wasn't interesting enough for me to be like, I gotta get that next issue. I just felt like there wasn't enough of a hook, and I've seen this version of a story before. Like, we've seen it from the pet's point of view. Comics have been doing this for a long time. But if you like the movie, I feel like they're selling it on that point of view. It's like, you like Krypto, go check it out. But I'm reading, honestly, enough pet books, and we're gonna talk about one of them this week as well. But I like the art a lot. I love Mike Norton's artwork, and I feel like he does such a good job with the pet characters. So giving that one 3 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, which is Emma Frost's White Queen, issue 1. This was not exactly what I expected. I thought this was gonna be more in continuity, more of what's been going on with Emma here. This is more of a lost story of Emma, where we get to see her in the Hellfire Club and what it's like for her to be in the Hellfire Club. And honestly, for me, the parts of Emma I really like is post-Hellfire Club, seeing her as an anti-hero. And I thought that's gonna be more of that here. I'll say the last part of this issue gave me enough to see where issue 2 is going to go, because I like the idea that there's a mole who brought the X-Men in. I thought that was interesting. I like the art for this one as well, so I think I'll give issue 2 another shot. So giving that one 3 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6, that other pet book I was talking about, and that is Jeff the Land Shark, issue 1. I don't feel like this was as strong as some of the other vignette stories we've been getting, but I'm curious to see where it's gonna go. I want to see him interact with other people, Deadpool may not being one of them. Didn't really love the snakes in this, but I like the potential of this book. I like that there is a little bit more story. I like the art too. It is different, and I don't know if it's as strong as the vignette stories we've been getting in the art style and the comedy, but I still think he's a cute character, and it gave me enough to want to see where issue 2 is gonna go. So giving that one 3 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is You Never Heard of Me, issue 5. This was a really solid series. Now it's over, so if you haven't picked it up, you get the trade in the next couple of months. But it's a fun story that I think did a really good job at creating its cast and having this teenage kid who has these like premonition type powers to be able to utilize them on a daily basis as we get to see that intertwine with his supporting cast. So if you're just looking for a fun teen YA story, very much recommend this one, and think it ended in a pretty solid place. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that's number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Phantom Road, issue 13. This book never disappoints me. I feel like this is such a wonderful example of how to pace your book. Every issue feels like something's happening, and doesn't mean something big has to happen, but it feels like it's moving. And with this issue, that's the same. Even though it's a flashback story, we get a lot about the history of what this Phantom Road origin is, and between the father and that detective characters we've been following since issue 1. So I had a good time with this, and I feel like unveiled a couple more of the mysteries here. So giving that one 4 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is Absolute Flash issue 4. I like this issue a bit more than the previous one, even though I thought the artwork was a little bit weaker than we've been getting. I liked a lot of the mythos building here. We get to introduce to Linda, we get some more of the villains of Flash, even the ending having a bit of Heatwave connected to Wally's origin story. But what I really liked was the beginning, getting into his head of anxiety, something that a lot of people could probably relate to, and you're like, okay, I can relate to this. I've heard this before. And I like drawing us into there and then weaving us in and out of, again, different aspects of Wally that you might notice in a different lens because it's the absolute universe. So giving that one 4 stars, excited to see where it's gonna go next. Moving on to number 2, which is I Was a Fashion School Serial Killer issue 3. What I liked about this one is the tension. It really builds up tension well, where our main character doesn't want to kill anyone because she's got friends, she's got a good life, and then one of her friends maybe was a little bit of a jerk. Maybe not enough of a jerk to be killed, but enough of a jerk where she wants to kill this person. All while the height of this fashion internship type thing is coming to a head, her feelings for her friend is getting a little bit more intense, her other friend. There's just a lot of interesting interplay here. Great artwork too. There's some interesting POVs here that really work and build that tension, and it's just a wonderful book. So overall, giving that one 4.5 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1, this is the book I was implying earlier when I was talking about SpiderMan, but that's Gwenpool issue 2. A book that honestly on paper and in the headline seems a little silly, right? Gwen Stacy's coming back for the 5,000th time. You're like, well, I've seen this before. Now she's a killer? That's weird. But this book does a really good job at playing that out and making you feel like it's more than a gimmick. Through the lens of Gwenpool, who can actually analyze what's a gimmick and what's not a gimmick. And you really get to see her and her feel about comics. You put yourself in her shoes, and not in a comedic way. Usually in Deadpool is like, oh, haha, here, comics does this, but really in an emotional way of telling us how comics work and leading us to the end of, is Gwenpool dead? Is that what makes us feel for comics? And I really liked Gwen Stacy's role here of her kind of figuring out what her role is, honestly, between Gwenpool and SpiderMan. It seems like something has happened to her where she can't really fully compute her emotions, and obviously she is this assassin, so how does she end up here? And it looks like we're gonna be changing point of views, I'm guessing, in the next issue to really focus on Gwen and see how she got to this point. But I really thought it was a great way to mesh 2 characters I never thought that honestly should mesh, like Gwenpool, this comedic character, and Gwen Stacy, that's now this assassin. But this issue just made it really work, and I love when I could be surprised by stories like that. So I really enjoyed this one, and I'm curious to see where it's gonna go next. So giving that one 4.5 stars. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite book of the week was. Be sure to give this video a like as well. And the viewer's pick of the week for last week was Absolute Batman, and here are some comments about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.